What's up, YouTube? Okay, this is a little bit of a different video, I know, but it's Thursday and I'll put up something a little bit different. So, this video I'm going to be pulling apart the Pokemon Emerald and we're going to be fixing the internal clock in it. Now, I actually done this with the Gen 1 games, Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Red, etc. And that was fixing the battery in as well. However, they do differ a little bit, so I wanted to do a video on each. So, with third gen, like a game like Pokemon Emerald Ruby, the internal clock will actually go dry. It'll say at the start when you turn the game on, I'll actually get it up on the screen for you. It's dry. This means the time-based events like like berries growing, etc., will not actually occur until the actual battery is fixed inside the game. Now, for the Gen 1 games, it actually meant the save didn't work, but not for these ones. So that's how they differ. I've done a video on both, so a long time ago I did, well, not that long ago, but I did one on the Gameboy Color game. So I'll put that one in the description too. And let's get into it. I'm just going to run you through how to do it. This is probably, I could have done this ages ago, but I felt like doing it tonight because I had a couple of games I wanted to actually just fix up the clock. Okay, so we're just going to do this with Emerald tonight. So as you'll see, just popping the game over on the back. So you just got like one little screw there. Now I've got one of these. It's quite, it's good. It's the little, it's just actually made for the Game Boy Advance. It's like a little 3 prongs on the end of it. I'm not sure if you can see that. You can see that. Yeah, it's basically made for this. So you want to just take that screw off there. It can sometimes be quite tight, like something else. No, I'm just joking, people. But yeah, just make sure you support it behind it as you get it. This is the first time I've opened this game, so I'm not. This one's quite tight, so there we go. Okay, so we've got like a little, just one little screw there. That's all it is, right? Okay. Let's put that over there to the side. So, that's the backing just taken off easy there. But before we get into any more of that, I probably should show you what else you need. Okay, so this is just an example of what I use. You could use something else if you want. So firstly, you need the battery, right? So you want a CR1616 battery, and you want something decent quality, not something from like the op shop for like 2 cents, because you want this to, you're putting this a game and you're not going to want to be opening it too often. So get something decent, right? Just get like get something like this. Doesn't have to be exactly this, but just something decent that doesn't cost like 1 cent. Alright, I'm doing a solderless one this time, so just a bit of blue tack that works fine. It means it's not permanent either, so if you need to make any changes, you can. I actually use one of these. It's like a tiny little flat blade. I'll try and get that closer to the camera. Focus, please. It's quite handy at just getting under the little battery tabs to lift it up. And I also use some pliers. Now, I modded these pliers myself. I just grinded them down. So, as you can see, they're like, they're very fine on the end. You can probably get something a bit smaller. These are quite large, but yeah, I grinded them right down, and it actually helps just turning up the wire a little bit. So I'm going to run you through how to take the whole battery off. And if you have a game and you want the internal clock to work again in the events, by all means, try and follow what I do. So after, as you remember, we took the we took that off already. So I'm just going to slide that off, and you'll see. Yes, okay, just put that over there. So what we got here, right here, we've got that's the battery there, and we've got one arm going across the top and one arm underneath. So what we're going to do, right, is we need to take off that arm there, and we need to take off the arm that's on the bottom. Now, the one on the top is easy, but when you get to the one on the bottom, you have to be quite careful. So this is definitely not a process you want to rush at all. So just take your time, and it'll be fine. Okay, so basically, let me explain also, with these games, they're actually soldered to the battery, which isn't the greatest thing. So I would not recommend soldering them back onto the battery. It's probably not the greatest idea in the world. So what you need to do is you need to break the little solders, which is actually, let me try and put this a little bit closer for you. Please focus. Okay. So you want to get rid of the little solders underneath the tabs, which is located underneath this tab here, in between the battery and the tab. There's not much, but it's just been spot soldered. So there's only probably like 1 or 2 little bits you have to get rid of. Once you do that, you do the other side. But you need to just be very careful. Don't be pressing on this while you're doing it. So first, I like to get this little tool, right? So just something tiny, and let me see if my webcam's not focusing. Not my webcam. My camera's not focusing too well, and the dog is jumping up at the door. Goody. Anyway, so you want to get this little part. You want to just be starting to get under. You want to try and get underneath the tab there. So I'm going to get underneath this tab, and I'm actually might just focus my camera. So I can go in a little bit towards it. That's better. So you can actually have a better idea what I'm doing. So this is a way better to look at it. So we want to get underneath here, right? So I'm going to start doing that now. I'm just do it. I'll try and talk while I do it, but I'm going to try and concentrate at the same time. So as you can see, we've got this little end bit here, right? The easiest entry point is just behind it. So you can just start. What I do, right? You don't want to be worrying about the battery either. So that old dead battery is fine. Like, you can do whatever you like to it. So what I like to do is I like to press into it to push the tab off it, right? Because we're going to be throwing it in the bin anyway. So it's done and dusted basically. So I just want to slide it in the back there. Now don't be worried if you mess the arm up a little bit. If it gets a few bumps in the side. Essentially, it's it's just there for a connection between the battery and the circuit board. So it doesn't matter if it's a little bit messed up, as long as you don't break the solder there at the end. Do not break that, and do not just don't be so rough with it, and just be very careful. So see how I'm doing? I'm just going up the side, right? And we're not, I'm not doing it very hard. I'm just lifting the side up, so you can see how it's coming up. That's cool. So we just really want to get into it, and then I can probably get into it with my pliers. You can do both. Both of these work well. So I like to get one side up first. It's just, I guess it's a personal preference. Okay, so we're getting one side up. So what you can do now is you can start getting the side up, and you can start when you put your your screwdriver there. Now, one thing too, with your I've seen this happen so many times. People tend to slip, and the screwdriver goes into them. So make sure you just adjust it so your finger's not there. So if you do slip, you're not going to put the screwdriver right through your hand, because that hurts. And I've seen that happen so many times. Why people do just working things. Okay. Anyway. So you can start. You can be pretty rough into the battery. That's all good. So you're getting that part up. Now sometimes I like to put as long as you don't put your fingers over the circuit board. Also, I forgot to mention this at the start. Make sure your hands are clean and everything. So wash them with soap. Make sure they're not wet or anything. You could even wear gloves as well, like those just medical gloves. You could wear them if you don't want to get anything on there. That's another thing. You lose a tiny bit of precision. That's all, and it might become a bit sweaty. So personal preference there once again. So I like to get to the end of it, and you can even turn it around if you want to too. So that's there. I've done this a lot of times, so I know how much pressure to put on, so I can put my finger right next to it and not put it through it. But just be careful on your first time, because that kind of hurts. So we got the side bit there up now, which is good. I'll just give you hopefully I can. Alright, so as you can see just down the side there, so there's just little bits of solder there hanging it on by a thread. So I'm really starting to push underneath here, right, to try and break that solder. It's just a gradual process, right? So once you get one, it'll be easy. So just try and dig your way underneath it, and make sure you're always push into the battery. Don't push the other way, because you don't want to wreck the arm. You want to try and preserve the arm as best as possible. So I'm really starting to get into this one at the end here. I can feel the solder starting to just give way a little bit. Now when you do break it, it'll make like a little this little popping or breaking noise. That's all good. Don't worry, as long as you're not, just don't press onto the circuit board. If you press anywhere, press onto the plastic and into the table, so all your weight's going down there and you're not breaking the board or anything. Okay, I'm just gonna flick the top up. Now you can do that, and you can do around with this. I like the pliers too, because you can really actually get in there and get the sides up and expose where those things are. I'm just putting. So if you heard that then, that was a little bit of solder just breaking off, which is good. Now, I personally like getting the bottom off, but I mean, if we can get this off first, that'll work too. So there you go. If you heard that click, that's the just get that one there, so you can see it. That was the first one that came off. Yep. So as you can see, I've just worked that up. So the first bit is off. Now you can always straighten those arms out again with the with the pliers. There we go. So I just broke the other bit, and slowly just lift that bit up there. So there we go. Just give you a perspective there. So that's it, and that's how it's been soldered onto the battery. Now, do note how the battery is actually located, right? Let me just grab the new battery out of the packet. So, see how the battery, let me just wait for my camera to focus. See how the battery is face down, so that's how it needs to be. Now on here, if you look closely, there is a negative and a positive, right? So just put that arm out of the way. So the negative is right there, as you can see. So you just match that up with the battery. So see how, this is the new battery, right? So hope this will come up. Okay, probably not. It's quite hard to for it to see. But you can see the positive is right there, right? So you want to put that on the opposite side to negative, and face down like that. So the battery would be essentially like that. So you can see that as well. And then obviously the positive is right there as well. So you just put the positive closest to that, whatever side it's on. So let's look on this one. So the positive is there. So it would go, that side would be closest to there, right? And then you just turn it over and put it face down straight where it is. Okay, so anyway, let's get to the next bit. So that one's up. We'll straighten the arms afterwards. So getting the battery up from here. So I like to just be very gentle here. Just get a little corner and just ease it up. Don't be tempted to just wrench it up because you might snap the arm. So we've got the battery up. Okay. So this is probably the hardest bit of it. Try and get some perspective. So there we go. So we got this bit, right? Can you see it on there? So the hardest bit about this is, before we had a lot of the circuit board to like push down on, right? Now it's quite hard because it's in the air. So you have to be quite patient. So what I do, right? Once again, you need to tackle the weak spot, how to get to it. So it's not up the top, it's down the bottom. So there's it should be like a little gap between just here. You want to work in your little, just a little head of your instrument or whatever you're using, and just work up and just do exactly what we did as the other one. And don't be tempted to, just try and be gentle and try and hold on to the parts, just on the, probably on the casing that are the thickest. You could also do this in a vise too. If you had a vise or some kind of instrument to hold it there, that would work as well. I'm just going to do it how it is. So, let's get it. Okay. Right. So sometimes the circuit board can come out of there too, so that's normal. Don't think you've broken or anything. It just sits in there. It's just a shell really to fit into your game and to protect it. Okay, so we've got let's see. So we've got this little part here. So it's face down, right? I like to put my finger on there, right? But I push my finger on the top, and I'm pushing the screwdriver. Give you a better look at that. I'm pushing my screwdriver in there, which is actually popping. See how there's a little gap forming there? That is where you want it. See how there's a gap there now and it's come up? That's where your entry point is for there. And that's how you want to go about doing it. So we've got a gap there now. Now this I find important for not so much the first tab, but the second tab with the pliers, right? This is where I find the pliers are very, very handy. Once again, you definitely want some pliers that have got tiny little tips on them. I nearly said something else there. Tiny tips on them, so you can lift up the tab. So we got that under there, and so just what you're doing is you're pulling it away from yourself, right? And you're just ever so lifting it up. Now you've got one hand, your left hand or whatever your prominent hand is, supporting the actual casing and the battery at the same time. Now just take this part really slowly and make sure you're holding onto the battery good. So that's lifted that up a little bit, and now you want to use the small instrument to try and break the solder. The pliers really just allow you to get to it. The little instrument allows you to lift it up and break the solder. Okay, and you can move it around as much as your discretion as well. You don't have to exactly do it like I'm doing it, but I like to move it around a little bit as well. So getting up there, I'm just same as before. So I've got a lot of I've got a pretty good spot here because I can put my thumb and all my fingers on one edge of it and it's not moving at all, and I'm putting my full weight into pushing into the battery and up, right? Because we want to wreck the battery, not the circuit board. So as you can see, I'm pushing all the way up there, and you can see the edge of the wire coming up. I'm pushing up still. I'm pushing into the battery because we don't care about that. We've got lots of them. And if you heard a little click then, that's some of the solder breaking. So you can see the solder in there, and you really want to try and hit that. Okay. There we go, there's another little break. Getting in there. There we go. Okay, and as you heard, that snapped off and the battery is released. So there we go. That's basically how to get the battery off. Now, I've done that a lot of times, so if you haven't done it before, don't expect maybe to do it that fast. And take your time. Don't try and do it really fast. So it's something you want to do a couple of times. Okay, so once you've done that, that's all good. Now, firstly, before we put any battery on, just get them straight as you possibly can. And I'd say with like a, you know how you've got this rough stuff, don't use that of the pliers. Use the flatter part, right? And just put that around it and just probably get like one finger over there and just do it nice and not too hard. And just you can use the edge of it too if you are confident, and just make it a little bit you know, flatter than what it was, because it has to sit flush on the battery. So you know, the flatter it is, the better. So you don't so it gets a better connection too. Okay, so that's pretty good. I'm not going to get it much better than that. So now we're going to be putting the battery back on. So we got the new battery, as I mentioned before. Get something decent. Don't get a piece of crap from Red Dot or anything. Or get something good, because if you get a piece of crap, it might be cheap, but you're going to be replacing again, and it's just annoying, right? So get something good. Now, as I said before, putting the battery in. So as you can see, we've got the positive and the negative. Now, here's the positive on my battery right there. Oops. So we want the positive, right? So we've got the positive and we're flipping it over so that positive goes towards the positive and it's facing down. It doesn't have to be like super exact, as long as it's in like the general vicinity of the like direction where the positive goes, that will do. So that's the way it would go down, right? However, we need to do something first before we do that. So we know what way it goes now, right? It's going to go down. Now we want to put this arm that's on the left, so just if you've got the game facing in the same direction I have, you'd push that one. Just be careful, slowly down until it hits there. So it doesn't have to be like super flush, because the momentum of you like putting the battery on top and the arm and the blue tack on the top will push it down anyway. So as long as it's flat, and so you can see like mostly the work's been done around there. So this is, you know, this is fairly good, and they'll just go down easy. So that one's down, right? That needs to be flat on that board, right? So we've got that now the same direction as the battery went. So from the positive to the positive, and we're putting the battery like this. So you can look, just get it in the, you know, in the general way. So you got that. So that's on top, right? So you're just there, and then you want the other little tab just to go over the top like that, right? Okay, so there you go. See, it's sitting like that, and that's exactly like it was back before. So, however, you need to probably do a little bit better job than just putting the container on, the shell bit on. So, I propose some. You can use blue tape. I like using blue tape because it insulates it pretty well, and it's you know, it's good. You can take it off again, and if you put it on correctly, you're not going to really damage the circuit board at all. Okay, so I recommend. With blue tack, one thing about it, doing this, you need to put like always go from like a smaller amount. Don't just whack a big lot on, because then you have to take it off. You can always put more on, but it's annoying to take it off. So just getting a little bit like that. So now, one thing you want to know when you're putting the shell back on, you want to make sure see how you've got the where the game slides in to like the little runners. You want to make sure they're all clear, right? Because if they got it in there, it's not going to sit flush, and it's just not as good. So just to probably get a thinnish piece first, or a little bit, and so you just want to put it on top there. So, and then just slowly mold the blue tack around the battery, right? You can even use this if you want to. Just one thing when you're doing this, don't be tempted to, you know, push down, because you'll put a hole through the circuit board, and that won't be that would be any good. So you can use your fingers if you're not confident about that, but just push it around. So you want to make sure it's you know, it's touching the circuit board. Just don't touch it too much on, you know, just try and put it around on the, you know, the areas that don't have so much stuff on it, right? And also with this, just don't put that close to that. So I recommend just putting it just in front of it. And also when you put the lid on it, right, it's gonna push the blue tack down and out, right? So it's going to expand a little bit as well. So just bear that one in mind too. Okay, so that's looking okay. I've put I've probably put the right amount on there actually. You can just push it down yourself and see if you want to put more on, but I'd suggest if you got too much on to take it off before that. So obviously you can see the cavity in this there's a little bit of room, so you can probably fit enough in there. You can probably look at the side and be like, okay, well that's going to be enough to fit in there. If it's too high, I'm going to go and put the lid on and it's not going to fit, then I have to pull it off again. So just common sense there really. So so we've got that one on. All the the tracks down there, they're clear, they're not going to get clogged up. Now you can either just put this lid back on. So I like to, let's do it from the side, so you can see where stuff goes in. So probably get like one hand and hold the blue tack and get one side on first. So get the side maybe with the blue tack on, so you can see how they go into there. So just get one side, and as it just slowly, gradually get it in, and then quickly, and as you're holding it, see how my other finger's holding it, and just go to the other side and do the same thing as well. Therefore, you're not putting like one side in, then the other, and then you're stuck trying to put them both in. Okay, so that one's just slotted in there, I believe. Sorry, I'll just get that there. It's I think I might have a little bit too much blue tack. We'll see. Nope, we've got it. Okay, so we're good. We're at this point. Obviously the side with the blue tack might bulge a little bit, but that's all good. Now, once you got that going there, you can just you can just push it up, and if it feels really too big, don't force it because you'll break the circuit board and the plastic. So just take a little bit off, rinse and repeat really. So I've got that one there now. I can just push it up and push the other side up, pushing it up and through there. Sometimes you have to be on the casing. You can push it a little bit if you think if you think there's enough room. You can just push it along the runner. It might feel quite like it's getting held up a little bit, but that's just the blue tack sticking the top. So we've got the flush connection now. Oh, also one thing. Sometimes if you put too much blue tack on, if you see here, it may come out there a little bit. It's not too much of a problem if there's only a little bit there, but you may want to get your, without being silly about it, you may want to get your like your little instrument and just, I'm just going to do it right. I'll do it right now because I've got a little bit of excess. So just putting it in there. It's just up against there, so you don't probably want excess. It's just a little bit. There we go. So we got that off. You don't want really anything interfering, but don't touch anywhere on the actual circuit. Just where the just flush where the plastic is, coming together. Okay, so we got that one done. That's all good. Now we just put the back screw on up the top, and I'm sure you know how to put a screw in. Helps if you use a screwdriver. So just holding them together in the right place and putting that one back in. And there we go. We are all done putting the new battery in, and the time clock should work. Let's try it out and see if it works. Now, if you get that message up on the screen, yeah, you probably haven't done this correctly. But we'll get to that in a sec. I'll just bring it up on the screen. So, as you can see, the internal battery clock has been fixed, and the clock has changed the time from the start, as I showed at the beginning of the video, until now. Now, if it for some reason this doesn't work, just make sure you put the battery in the right way. That's the most common thing. And make sure both of the arms of on the circuit board are still connected properly. You haven't broken them off. And also, if something is obstructing one of them, say if there's a bit of blue tack underneath the arm, that will also actually stop it from working too. So just make sure you've checked all those things. And I hope this one helped and was a little bit different. Okay, peace.